All right, same as the front. Now, taking off 4 of the bolts. 5th one, I take off only if I have my hand on the rim. Keeping my hand on the rim, it's kind of balances ever so delicately on the center. So I've got it. I'm not applying any pressure. I'm just kind of pushing it in. I've got to put my gun here now on the hoist. And if I let go of this might drop down. Let's get it off. It's on the ground. This I think I might be standing in the way of this light. Let's get it here. Let's move my camera over a little bit closer. So some of this stuff you might not see as clearly as you did on the front. Let's see what I can do here. So there we go. You've got a nice clear view. All right, you've got a fairly clear view of this. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. It's kind of dark, isn't it? So let me see if I can slide this over. Maybe I can make this better. Guys, that's the best I can do. I guess I could bring this camera a little bit closer. Not better? Yeah, that's better. So it's lit up a little bit more. Now I might be in the way of this light, so I'm going to try and move the light over. So again, what do we have here? The caliper, our pads. We got our anti-rattle clip. So we got to take off that anti-rattle clip first. And we've got the same thing in the back as we do in the front, which is some little rubber caps on my rubber boots to protect my caliper bolts. And we're going to get those out. So I'm going to pull them out. Number one. Number two. Now, because I've worked on this vehicle many times, I know exactly what I've got to do to get access to what I've got to get to so I can take this caliper out. So there's the second one there. What I need, and I can't do this on this side of the car, I actually need a long extension. And that long extension is going to allow me to take off my bottom bolt for my calipers. So I'm actually going to have to get under the car to do it. My top bolt won't be an issue. I'm going to get my top bolt off with my air ratchet. And I'm just going to loosen it. Okay, so let's just loosen it. Put my lever here. Okay. And then this one isn't a problem. So I've got that one out. So I've got that bolt out, but I've actually got to go under the car to get the second one out. And again, I've done this so many times, I know exactly what I've got to do. Before I do that, I'm taking off my anti-rattle clip. Oh, I'm in the way, so I'm just going to stop here. So again, I'm using a pair of side cutters. Cutting pliers, and once I get this side off, okay, I can swing it, and then my anti-rattle clip will come out. This one might be in a little worse condition than my front brakes, simply because I don't really do the back brakes as often, and we haven't had students to the shop since March of last year. All right, so normally this car comes in on a regular basis. And this is one of like my mules for the shop, right? This is something that gets used and abused by the students all the time. And because it's my car, I really don't care, right? We've also got the shop cars, but they're so badly rusted that we can maybe do brakes on it once or twice. And then after that, guys, the bolts and nuts are so badly rusted, they just kind of disintegrate. But that's what we get for donations at the school. We usually get the older cars. The Cadillac that's here, the truck that's here, we do use those too. But we really only use a truck for the drum brakes because it's got drum brakes on it, so we do that. The Cadillac's got fixed calipers in the front, and because it's got fixed calipers in the front, It's incredibly difficult to work on it, so we really don't work on the front brakes. But what we do is we look at the electric handbrake on this car. That's for my grade 12s. There's a little button on the dash, and when you pull on that button, it will activate the handbrake. And when you push on the button, it will release the handbrake just like you're pulling on the lever. So you pull on the switch, it activates it. You push on the switch, much like pulling on the lever, the handbrake lever. That's how the switch operates. And then we use that for the grade 12s. And that does have a floating caliper in the back, so we can take the brakes apart. All right, let me get under the car. Let me just take this up. Again, I've worked on this car so many times, and I know exactly what to do. So, I've got to get underneath. I've got my extension. I know if you guys see that. You guys can see that. So, I'm under the car. I've got to use an extension. And why do I have to use an extension? Because there's no room. Both bolts out. Both bolts are out. All right, the caliper should come on. I've got both of my caliper bolts out. I'm just going to take a screwdriver and kind of pry them out of the way. Good. So I've got both bolts out. I'm just going to slide the caliper off. So slide the caliper off. So here comes my caliper. And just like my front brakes, I've got a brake pad that gets pushed into the piston of my caliper. So pull it off. Just like my front brakes, I've got a pad that is pushed in. Little clip into piston. Now, again, there's a circle. All right, there's a circle for the piston. There's my pad. Now, this pad is a little bit rusty. It's also in the back. All right, I'm going to clean it up with the wire brush, and I'm going to show you what we're doing. Outside pad, right here. And again, this doesn't look very good. This doesn't look good at all. So I do need rear brake pads. However, please remember this, guys. Less than 50% of the braking is done in the rear of the car. Most of the braking is done in the front. So, yeah, the pad is kind of low, and I know that. So I'll have to get some pads. And I won't even worry about getting rotors. I'll just throw some pads in. So this pad is worn. If I was to measure it, let me show you the pad. Okay, so there's not much left there. Let me take the wire brush to it, and you're going to see how quickly and easy it is to clean this up. So let me just take the wire brush to it, and let's take a look at the pad. Okay, old and rusty. Let me just do this. Got my trusty wire brush. And again, these pads, this poor car is neglected, right? Doesn't give me any trouble. And really, I should do more work on it. And I don't, and I feel bad. However, it never fails. These old Volvos are great. They don't really give me any trouble. And that's the reason why I own it. So let's take a look at this pad. Got a couple of things that you guys need to see. Okay, so if I show you this, let's see if I can show you right here. So here's my brake pad. Oh boy. You guys notice anything on this pad? Let's take a look. Oh yeah. So let's get it closer. Look what I'm seeing right here. Let me point it out. So one of the things that I was telling you guys is, first of all, the pad is low. If I was to measure this, let's measure the pad. Let's get my trusty gauge out, and let's take a look at where it is. And I think that it's probably already in the red. So if I'm measuring my thickness of my pad, take a look. Oh, okay. So let me just show you this side here. It's in the very last of the yellow. All right. So the thickness of my pad, okay, if you guys can see it, I'm looking down. The thickness of my brake pad is in the last of the yellow, so it's just before the red, okay? So it's in the very last of the yellow. If I try and do any other ones, it's going to be too thin. But what I notice on this pad, especially on the lower side, because the pad's not worn evenly, if you notice, the pad on this side is a little tiny bit higher than the pad on this side. So this pad is kind of a little bit cockeyed or crooked inside the holder. But what I notice on this pad, do you guys see the separation? So if you're looking right here, you can see the separation in the brake pad, okay? So because we've got separation in the brake pad, it means these pads have gotten a little bit too warm. It also means these pads are old, okay? I've had this car now for 2 years. When I got the car, I didn't do any service to it. I just kind of cleaned it all up, made sure everything was okay, and put it together. I got it certified and put it on the road. It's been great ever since. So I've got pad separation from the backing plate right here. I'm going to make sure to change these pads. So probably what I'm going to do, I don't think I'm going to have enough time to put this back together today. So today's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm going to see you guys again Monday next week. So what I will do is, as long as everything is okay in the front and I've got no pulsation, I'm just going to do what's called the pad slap on the rear brakes. And we're going to get some brand new pads. And I'm going to show you what has to be done, because when we replace pads on a vehicle, we have to squeeze my caliper piston back in. So the piston on my caliper, when we're looking at it, my piston, if you guys can see this, yeah, my piston has come up quite a lot because the pads are worn. What we have to do when we change the pads is we've got to squeeze this piston back into the caliper body, and I'll show you how to do that on Monday, because I will definitely change these pads, okay? I'm going to call my supplier today and I'll get the pads for this. So let's show you what we have in the back of this vehicle. And what we have in the back of this vehicle is a handbrake assembly, but it's in here. And once I pull this apart, you're going to go, oh, that's kind of neat. It's called a top hat rotor. And this top hat rotor, we call it a top hat rotor because it kind of looks like a top hat. And I know you guys are young and none of you guys know what a top hat is. But if you guys look up what a top hat is, it's one of those big hats. It's got a brim around it, and then it's got a big area on the top here. And that's why they call it a top hat, because it's got a big, massive kind of portion here that kind of sticks up. And that's what we've got here. We've got a portion here that kind of sticks out a bit, and I've got a set of brake drums in there. But they're only used just for the handbrake. So I've got to pull off my 2 bolts. And again, I've done this so many times. I know exactly how it comes out. I need a 13 millimeter. And wow, I don't even have my 13 millimeter here. So let's see. Nope. Wow, I don't have my 13 millimeter here. I did not bring it. That's my fault. So 13 millimeter. And I'm going to get a 13 flex. Drive. I'm also going to bring a 13 millimeter wrench. So I've got my 13 millimeter socket, I've got a 13 millimeter flexible socket, and I've got my 13 millimeter wrench. So I'm going to start with the shortest socket possible, which is this one. Hold on, get in there, guys. That's one. That's 2. Now, my caliper bracket could fall, but I kind of kept it so that it didn't fall on my foot. I've got my 2 bolts out. Okay, bolt, bolt, caliper bracket. Again, 2 big bolts here, 1, 2, 2 smaller bolts here for my caliper. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of quickly give it a wire brush. but I want you guys to see what's underneath here. I take the little bolt out. Again, we've got a little bolt right here that holds the rotor to the hub. So on this particular vehicle, we've got a set of drums inside here. Okay, so sorry, we've got a drum here. We've got a set of shoes in here. So let's just pull this out. And we will be studying drum brakes and we will be studying disc brakes. They're different. All right. So in here, I've got a set of shoes. And there's one shoe here on the top, and there's another shoe here on the bottom. But these brake shoes and the drum, let me show you the drum. So here's my rotor surface, outside, inside. And then in here, I've got the drum. So I've got this drum. Let's see if I can show it to you. Yeah, there's a good angle. I've got this drum surface that my shoes touch against, okay? But this is only used just for the handbrake, not for anything else. So my service brakes do not rely on this. So I've got a set of drums here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take some brake clean. I'm gonna clean it up right now because I'm in here. I might as well put it back together properly. So what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna give it a quick service. If you guys were working on this in class, we wouldn't use brake clean. We would just use water on it just to wash it all out. And then within 5 or 10 minutes, the water would kind of evaporate. We take the air line and blow it all off. We can't ever use air to blow off any of the dust that's in here because anything to do with brakes, all right, any of the fibrous materials that comes off the brake pads or the brake shoes, it's carcinogenic, all right? They're not asbestos anymore, so they're no longer using asbestos in the linings anymore, but they're still carcinogenic. So what that means is they're cancer causing, supposedly cancer causing, and you really don't want to breathe them in. So when we try and clean this up, we always use some sort of liquid to clean it up. And for this demo, I'm going to use something called brake clean. So we've got this stuff called brake clean. And okay, brake and parts cleaner, M-Zone. Many different manufacturers made it, right? All it is alcohol, okay, in a spray can. And what that does is when you spray it on, it dries really quickly. So I'm just going to spray this. And what this does is it cleans up all the parts. Okay. And not only does it clean up all the parts, it dries really quick. So if I was to take an airline blower, you're going to see it dry kind of right away. All right. So if you're looking at it now and you're seeing this stuff here, let me just, oh, I don't have the light shining on. All right. So there's the brake clean right there. You can see it. You can see it kind of running down here. Okay. If I just kind of do this, okay, look at it. It's already gone. It's already dry. And this is why we use brake clean industry because, ladies and gentlemen, time is money. All right. So if I'm doing a brake job on a vehicle, I want to get that brake job done as quickly as possible. Why? So I can do the next job. Because mechanics don't get paid by the hour. Most of them get paid by the job. All right. So the more jobs you do, the more you get paid. So if a brake job it pays you an hour to do, you want to try and get it done as quickly as possible. So if you can get that brake job done properly in 15 or 20 minutes, you still get paid for the hour. Now you can move on to your next job, right? So think about it, guys. You come in for an 8-hour shift, and you don't have to get paid for 8 hours on an 8-hour shift. You get paid for 20 hours. That's why mechanics can make 6 figures. That's why they can make 6 figures, okay? At $30, $40 an hour, all right? And you're putting in, let's say you do 20 hours a day every week. If you do the math, right? So 20 hours a day times 5 days, That's 100 hours a week. If we do the math, 100 hours a week times $30. 100 hours a week times $30. That's $3,000 a week, right? Let's multiply that now by 50, all right? If we do the math, pretty good money, right? So that's how mechanics make six figures. They don't get paid by the hour, they get paid by the job. So they're what's called flat rate, all right? So the more work you can do, the more work you can do properly and push it out, the more you get paid. All right, so now this is clean. So what am I gonna do with this? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna do exactly what I did with my brake pads. The difference is I have to lubricate these. And these are not brake pads, these are drums. So what do I need to do? What I need to do is I have to find all of what's called the pivot points on this, okay? And once I find those pivot points, I can lubricate them because my shoes have to move just like my pads, they just don't move the same way. So my pads kind of slide in and out on the caliper bracket, okay? My shoes, they move this way on my backing plate. So because they move this way, these shoes will come out, this one will come down, this one will come up, and that's how we get it pushing on the drum. So what I've got to do is I'm going to find my pivot points, and my pivot points, there's always 3 on every brake shoe. So I've got a pivot point here, that's 1, and I'm lubricating it. I know you guys can't see it, okay? I've got 2, and again, you guys can't see these pivot points, but I'm lubricating it. And then I've got 3 over here. So I've lubricated my shoes with this shoe, 1 shoe on the pivot point. I'm going to go down to the bottom now. And again, find those pivot points. I'm going to lubricate it with this brush. 1, 2. So my shoes, again, they're just used just for the parking brake. I've lubricated where they move. So again, these shoes are doing this. And they're moving on this backing plate. And I've just lubricated where they slide. So now, I'm going to do exactly what I did. I'm going to do exactly what I did to my brake pads, which is to sand them on a piece of sandpaper on the ground where it was nice and flat. And the only thing that I'm doing is I'm removing the glazing off of my shoes, okay? So, I'll show you what I'm going to do on the brake pad and you'll understand. Now, take a look at this brake pad. There's the brake pad before I sand it. Take a look at the color. The color of this brake pad shows that it's glazed over. It's just normal. Once we get the brake pads hot, the pads will glaze over. When I take it to some sandpaper on the floor, I'm going to sand it right now and you guys will see. Take a look at this. I've removed the glazing off of these pads. And look how much different they look. Okay, so let's take a look at the old pad here. This is the other old pad. And you can see the difference. You guys can clearly see the difference, right? This one looks a lot darker. This one looks lighter. Why? I've removed the glazing. And underneath the glazing, we've got the pad material. And if you guys can look at this, this one kind of looks almost shiny. You can see how it's kind of shiny. Well, hang on a second here. If it's shiny, doesn't that mean that it's not quite as sticky as this one that's not shiny? So once you get the pad kind of glazed over and shiny, and that's going to happen in, once I take this brake pad and I apply the brakes 2 or 3, 4, 5 times, it's going to get glazed over. But right now, by servicing it and sanding the glazing off, okay, what I've done is I've increased the coefficient of friction. I've made this pad a little bit more sticky, okay? This one, because it's so shiny, it almost looks greasy or oily. It's not quite as sticky as this one. Don't worry about it, guys. When we apply that piston and we squeeze them really tightly against the rotor, it's still going to work. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one, even though these pads are going to get changed. I'm doing this now. I might as well do it properly while I'm putting the car back together. So I've just removed the glazing off of these, both of these pads. I haven't taken them off complete 100%, but I've done it, okay? What am I gonna do next? I'm gonna lubricate the pads where they slide, all right? And what I have to do first is I'm gonna take the wire brush and I'm just gonna give it a quick wire brush just to kind of clean up the surface where it slides, all right? And I wish you guys were here. Some of you guys might have already done this, okay? Some of you guys might have done a brake service in grade 10. And I think maybe Hansa did it, I'm not sure. Lenny could have done it, Sarah could have done it. I just don't remember, guys, and I can't look back at my books. And I've set myself up completely different for this online learning than I do for in-person. So, cleaned up my pads a little bit, so where they're gonna slide, all right? What am I gonna do? Take my trusty lube. And again, I've got this very special lubricant and this special copper slip, all right? It allows me to lubricate these brake pads. And what it allows me to do is lubricate the brake pads with a lubricant that I know that will not turn into a liquid when it gets hot. Because when we apply the brakes on the car, guys, these brake pads get very hot. And if we've got a lubricant that's gonna melt and turn into like a liquid, we don't want that. Okay, so I've just kind of lubricated where the pads slide. So that's where I've lubricated. So it slides here and it slides in this area here. So I've done that. So they're ready to be reinstalled. This one, where am I going to lubricate it? I'm going to lubricate it right where it touches the piston for the caliper. So I'm going to lubricate it right in the circle. So you can see that circle. I'm shocked that there's no lube on this because this is my own car. It's been so long, I guess, that I haven't done it. So there we go. I've lubricated the circle where the piston is going to touch from my caliper. And then I'm just going to take the brush and I'm just going to lubricate, again, where the pad slides in and out on the sliders. That one's ready. What I have to do now is, and I don't have enough time to like put this back together and show it to you properly. So what I'll do, we've only got 10 minutes. I'll make an adjustment on this. I'll make an adjustment on the back shoes. I'll put this back together. But I'll start this over again on Monday simply because I don't have enough time to kind of finish this properly and show you how we're going to put it back together. It's very similar to the front brakes. The only difference is we've got to adjust this. So let me just show you how I'm going to adjust it. So how do you adjust drums? Here's how you adjust them. And again, it's only handbrake drums. So this is what we do. We take the drum, we take this drum. So my drum is on the inside of this rotor. And what I do is I want to make sure that my shoes just kind of drag ever so slightly on my drum. To make my shoes drag ever so slightly on my drum, I've got to lengthen this thing. So I've got something here, and it's an adjuster. And when I turn my little star wheel here, it makes the adjuster longer. When we make the adjuster longer, what we're doing to the shoes is we're moving them out ever so slightly. And if you move them out ever so slightly, it's going to rub against the drum. And that's what we kind of want for this. We just kind of want the shoes just kind of dragging on the drum a little tiny bit. So you can see that I've kind of turned it like this. I'm going to put my drum back on. And I'm going to see if my shoes are now dragging on my drum. Right now, my shoes are dragging a little bit too much on my drum. I'm going to try to move it around. Nope. Now, I don't want them dragging too much on my drum. So I'm just going to take this back off. And you know what? Because of the way that these shoes are so small. Kind of messed up here. I think I shoved it on. Oh, let me just check. So my drum is a little bit too tight on my shoes. So what I want my shoes dragging on my drum. That much. You know that I've got a rust on this, so let's see. Why am I banging it like this? I'm banging it to center my shoes inside my drum. But I moved them out a little bit too far. Okay, we've only got 6 minutes left. Guys, I'm gonna actually end up fighting with this for a little bit. So there's like 6 minutes left for you guys to go. It's 11:45. We will continue this on Monday. However, when we continue this on Monday, I think you're going to be a little bit better equipped to understand what I'm doing here, because I'm going to show you some of these YouTube videos. Plus, I'm also going to pull some stuff up off of the internet, so you guys have a better idea of how this all kind of works together. So I've spread the shoes out a little bit too far, kind of stuck on the drums. I'm going to be fighting with this for a little bit, so there's no way 5 minutes is going to be enough. Plus, you guys aren't going to get to see what I want to show